The wind moves differently in the Ural Mountains. It doesn't howl, and it doesn't whistle. It presses like something unseen is sweeping across the snow, searching, listening. And on a frozen night in 1959, 9 young hikers stepped into that wind, singing, full of life, unaware that none of them would walk back out. Their final campsite would become a place whispered about in Russia for generations. A place where tents were found slashed open from the inside. A place where barefoot prints walked calmly into a storm that could kill a man in minutes. A place where bodies were discovered, broken, burned, and glowing with radiation far from where they should have been. The Dyatlov Pass Incident. This isn't just a mystery. This is a wound in time. The hikers weren't amateurs. They were the best of their university, a group led by a man so experienced, so disciplined, that even rescue teams called him unbreakable. His name was Igor. They left in the final days of January, moving deeper into the mountains as temperatures dropped to levels that could freeze exposed skin instantly. But their spirits were high. Their journals recorded jokes, songs, and the light-hearted frustration of dealing with cold food and malfunctioning stoves. Nothing, absolutely nothing, hinted at what was coming. On February 1st, they set up camp on the slope of a mountain the local Mansi people called Holachal, the Mountain of the Dead. That night, under a colorless sky and a moon smothered by clouds, something happened. Something violent, something so terrifying that 9 trained mountaineers ripped their way out of their own tent and fled barefoot into a blizzard. The search teams, who came later, described the scene as impossible. The tent stood half buried in snow, silent and deserted. The fabric had been cut open, not torn, but sliced with precision. Equipment was arranged neatly inside. Cold weather gear, untouched. Boots untouched, jackets untouched. It was as if they were interrupted mid-conversation, mid-breath. Their footprints trailed down the slope single file, calm, deliberate. No signs of panic, no signs of running, bare feet, socks. One boot, in temperatures colder than a home freezer. At the tree line, the first 2 bodies appeared. They were nearly naked, curled beside the remains of a small fire. Branches above them were snapped higher than either of them could reach, as if something forced them upward, or something came down from above. One of the men had burned flesh on his hands, deep, blistered wounds. The other had bitten off part of his own skin. From pain, or from fear. Searchers moved farther into the forest and found 3 more bodies. Their positions made no sense, as if they were trying to crawl back toward the tent, as if they were fighting something the wind couldn't explain. Zena's knuckles were bruised, her arms scratched, her face twisted in something between determination and terror. Dyatlov was lying on his back, fists tightly clenched. Rustem had a skull fracture, like he had been struck with enormous force. But the strangest bodies were the last 4 found months later, under melting snow in a ravine. Their injuries were catastrophic. One woman's ribs were broken so severely that investigators said her chest looked as if it had been crushed by a vehicle. Another man had a massive skull, fracture, but no external wounds. His head was destroyed on the inside, untouched on the outside. Another woman's eyes were missing. So was her tongue, yet there was no sign of an avalanche. No sign of animals, no sign of an attack. Their clothing contained radiation. No one could explain that either. The Soviet investigation concluded with a single sentence: a compelling natural force. And then the files were sealed. For decades, theories swarmed the case like snowflakes in a storm. Some believed an avalanche struck the tent, but no avalanche debris was ever found. Some believed a local tribe attacked them, but the Mansi people lived far away and had no tracks near the scene. Some believed the hikers were disoriented, but disorientation doesn't break ribs like reinforced steel. Others whispered about military tests, secret weapons, rockets, mines, explosions so powerful they could crush bone without leaving visible wounds. But none of those theories explained the missing eyes, the missing tongue, the burned hands, the radiation. And then there were the lights. Weeks before the hikers died, Locals reported glowing orbs drifting over the mountains, at night silent, smooth, and bright enough to be seen through the forest canopy. Some described them as spheres, others as slow-moving fire, and several people, including soldiers, claimed they watched these lights hover near the very ridge where the hikers camped. The hikers themselves wrote in their journals about strange noises echoing across the ice, distant thumps, rumbling, a low humming that didn't sound like wind or animals. Some believe they weren't alone that night. Some believe the lights were indigenous lights. Then there's the forest, the one near the tree line where the first bodies were found. Trees there don't grow straight. Their bark peels in unnatural patterns. Electronic devices malfunction inexplicably. Modern hikers report feeling watched, feeling followed, feeling warned. One mountaineer claimed he saw shadows moving uphill against the wind. Another said he heard voices whispering in a language he didn't understand. And in 2019, when Russian investigators reopened the case after 60 years, they reached the same conclusion: a natural force. And again, no further details. The Dyatlov Pass Incident remains a perfect storm of facts that do not belong together. Organized footprints, but chaotic flight. Massive internal injuries, but no external trauma. Burns, but no fire big enough to cause them. Radiation, but no source. Eyes and tongues missing, but no scavenger tracks. A tent slashed from inside, but no reason for 9 people to flee into a lethal storm. Every explanation solves one piece and breaks all the others. Whatever happened that night was so sudden, so terrifying, and so final that 9 people with survival training, discipline, and experience tore their way into a frozen wasteland with no shoes, no coats, and no plan because something outside that tent was worse than the storm. Searchers say the mountain still feels wrong. Cold in a way snow alone can't explain. Quiet in a way that feels deliberate. Like something is waiting for the next moment someone chooses the wrong place to camp. At the wrong time, beneath the wrong sky. Some say the hikers were in the wrong place. Some say they were in the wrong moment. And some believe they weren't supposed to see what they saw. Maybe the wind knows. Maybe the snow remembers. Maybe the mountain is still listening, but the 9 who knew the truth never came back to tell it. This is Atlas, where history whispers and the unknown answers